All right. It says we are live. Yeah, it does. It looks like there's two or three that popped in. Hello. Still learning how this works. I have a monkey in my ear over here. He's my number one coordinating things in the control panel, so to speak. Brandon, or Eagle Eyes. And hello, I'm Rainey Ford of MountainWomanMedicine, and I'm currently playing with smoke and incense and music and sort of just setting space like I would for a session or a good talk time with people. So these live sessions came about because I just finished up with my first InnerCartography class of ladies, and we really just wanted to keep going. And so I was like, well, let's see how we can do this. And so here we are. Welcome, ladies. Welcome, beautiful people who are joining for the first time. What I am wafting through the room in this moment is an InnerCartography incense blend that must be in the other room that I had created for this work. It's a combination of lavender and frankincense. Just kind of helps to bring you present, put your feet in the ground, put your butt in your pockets of your pants, and just sort of settle in for the ride. This is what we're here for. Hey, darling. Could you tell me how I can say hi to people, how I see people? I see a number 3 next to people, and if that's what I see, that's cool.
Right, so you say right there, type something.
Oh, okay. So as well as talking like this, I can also message back and forth.
But that's mostly for them.
Got it. All right.
And it is public, so everyone sees it.
Understood. Yeah, I can't do too much of the sort of performance end unless I'm wearing like masks and a tutu and all that. I'm just sort of me as I go. So you're getting live version, and it's just a little after 7. So I'm gonna get started. Hello. This is a hail and a welcome from the mountain at Nemeton in the middle of winter. And we're talking about what is InnerCartography about, and where this came about, and what it can be useful for. And as people pop on with questions, whether it's people who I've worked with in the past or it's new people being like, okay, so what's this about? I'll do my best to answer questions as we go. I have myself a little note sheet over here. So InnerCartography for me is a system that I have worked with for a number of years. It's a system that came out of my own practice of self-exploration and learnings and trying to figure out what this world is really all about and what's my place in it, right? So I stumbled across a number of different systems. I think Moose Dog wants to come in, love. Brandon. It's a combination of human design, of gen keys, of emotional bridges and elemental explorations, and ways of understanding how we fit in this world, how we make sense of what's going on in our brain, what it is that we are filled with in our hearts, and what it is that we have the energy to do, what it is that we can offer back to the world. So it's a combination of how can we feed and how can we give, right? It's when we have a good balance of both, that's when we can experience the easefulness that life can give us. Without that ease, it's super complicated and we get all up in our heads, and we have a hard time just sitting on our pockets and being, right? So InnerCartography, human design, gen keys, and emotional bridges. I'm going to kind of break them down a little bit at a time. Human design is a system that is based upon looking at the mechanics of our being. Okay, so I'm going to explain the system in my own words and how I understand and how I use it. It is a mechanical exploration of the actions that we do. It's an emotionless way of looking at all of it, whether it's shadows, whether it's beautiful offerings, whether it's the terrifying dark things about ourselves, or it is the most shallowest thing. It's a place of being able to see where our melancholy and our sadness lives, where our anger lives, where our passion exists, where our anxiety thrives. And it also helps us to see where, when we are not living how we're designed to be here in our bodies, how we can potentially express ourselves through our notness. Human design would call it the not self. They have the not self and the true self. And I have always worked with isness and notness. My isness is my sphere. This is my 3x3 square of Earth. There's another video on this YouTube channel that is called the 3x3, your 3x3 square of Earth is what I believe it's called. And it talks about the turf that you stand on. This is my being. This is who I am, and this is what I have to offer. And so not shying away from our power, not having an inferiority complex about something that we're actually really good at doing, not shying away from compliments or avoiding situations because, you know, we're not really sure how people think of us. And so it's easier to assume that they think bad things and stay away from a place. Helps to bring us face to face with who we are and what we are. Then it's up to us. It's up to you. It's up to each one of us to really go, okay, that's me. That's what I am. That's what I'm here to do. And just let that be okay. And then find a way to use it. Find a way to work with it. In human design, we talk about different auric types, and that's really all about how we hold energy in our body, and on a mechanical level, what is that energy available to do? Some people have energy that is available, that is really only available to them when they are working for their own destiny, for their own purpose. Some people have an energy that is really designed to be in service to other people and to always have this constant awareness of the other, the other, the other, the other. Right? And to very infrequently look at themselves. And so some of these ways of being just are our natural ways of existing. And some of them are conditioning responses. They're conditioned responses. Hi, Moose Dog. You can't quite see him, but this is Moose Dog. These conditioned responses are what holds us in patterns that are unhealthy for us and don't allow us to thrive. In human design, that's the not self, and that's all the spaces, the empty white spaces on the charts that I'll get into in a second, that say this is where you don't live. And so this is either your place of learnings or your places of your wisdoms. And so my sense of it is that those white spaces those are the places, the wisdoms, the learned things. They're also places where spirit speaks through and says, this is what needs to come out of your mouth, right? So human design has a system it's based on a nine-centered being. It talks about individual mechanics of a single person's energy and just what that looks like. It breaks it down almost like into circuitries. Then you go over into Gen Keys and you've got a sphere of 11 different, or you got a circle with 11 different spheres, and each one of them represents a particular purpose. So the very first one you come to is the life path. And then you move into evolution, and then you move into radiance, and then you move into purpose, and then you move on up through the spectrum. Even those two systems right there, they have a beautiful parallel because that first 4 activation ring that's in Gen Keys is a mirror of what the incarnation cross is in human design. So incarnation cross and the activation sequence is really kind of giving us a frequency for what are we here for? You'll have to excuse the flowery language. I talk in terms of frequencies and vibrations and energy. And then I'll also talk about how the soil feels out in the garden and how warm and sticky compost feels before it's gone through all of its proper phases and it's rather slimy. So I actually use language in a way of viscerally describing a thing. The vibrations and the frequencies that are happening all around us are not just woo-woo fluffy. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I mean, that's just a fact in my reality. For some other people, it's a different conversation. They're all about ready to debate it and and chew it apart. And I'm not here for that. I'm here to say that is a thing. Let's learn about it. Let's grow with it, and let's find a way to make it do some good. Like, let's not just talk about it. Talking is so important because without language, we cannot express ourselves. Human Design says it beautifully, where it says that there's a pressure center at our feet and a pressure center in our head that drives us with ideas and adrenaline that makes us try to express through our voices. And so if we cannot find that ultimate expression, whether it's through being silent and waiting to respond and allowing people to invite us into that space, which helps us to refine how we spend time with people and who we discern to have in our company. Or it's the defined voice person who is learning to step up and say, no, I do have something to say. And without doing it too hard or too soft, but just being there, just being present and settling into the ride. This life is an experiment. It's a puzzle. It's a game. And it has deep risks. It has deep rewards. And there's also a great deal of trauma and hurt that can be done with all of it. It wouldn't be of value if it didn't have all of it, if it wasn't risky in some way, shape, or form. So the third system, emotional bridges. Emotional bridges is a concept that's based around the elemental aspect of things. It works with boiling down emotions down into very simplistic 4 levels of qualities, so that then you can begin to see its facets out as it breaks out, and we begin to understand how we live those emotions through our everyday life and what they look like. One person who's angry and repressed is not necessarily going to look the same way as another person who's deeply angry and repressed and has repressed that anger. How we begin to pick up and read other people, being able to read with our eyes, with our hands, when we hug somebody, when we touch them, it all gives us that sort of zooming in perspective of getting to know something on a much, much deeper level. When we start to go in that deep, that's when we start to move through. We move into the frequencies of things. We move into what is the energy behind an emotion. When we get to the rawness of the emotion, the energy behind the emotion, then we can understand it. Once we understand it, then we can do something to affect it. And that's where the power comes in. That's where reclaiming your power happens. And oftentimes it involves doing the thing that is the hardest thing to do, whatever the thing is that scares you the most, that makes you the most intimidating, is probably right in front of where your next piece of gold is. And it's often likely the thing that it's not easy to talk about. The more we become comfortable with talking about the uncomfortable things, the deeper and the quicker we can get to our truth. Once we get to our truth, we can find out where our power is. Once we know where our power is, we can turn it into fodder, and we can use it to perpetuate and to propel growth forward in ourselves. And when we do it for ourselves, we do it for other people because we live as an example. I'm a mountain woman living up here on a mountain. I don't really delve much into politics. I don't really get involved in a lot of people's dramas and malarkeys because I lived there for many years. And it was so deeply a part of my world in so many shapes and faces. I started to see the same stories repeating over and over again. Just the flavor would change or someone's face would change. And time again, between my own experiences, the world around me, and spirit, it kept showing me that there is a way you can do this. There is a way you can come back to yourself, and you don't have to drown. What that looks like for each individual person is their own. For me, it looked like not having to have the weight of the world of responsibilities to live up to the expectations of what that world says is right. You know, your 2-car garage, your big fancy house, your the stuff and the things, the material possessions. They aren't the matter that I care about. And so I live very simply, and I live very tiny, and I live without a lot of the conveniences that today says that, well, you should have this, you're entitled to this. I actually feel like I'm entitled to go wash my own laundry and hang it on a line to dry. I think I find a beautiful, I don't think I find, I do find a beautiful peace and simplicity to going about my day and noticing and seeing that the amount of human living that I then have to make allowances for. I am human, so I make dirty clothes. I have to consume food. That food has to go somewhere. I dirty dishes so that I eat. I have to eat, so I have to have food. Am I going to the grocery store, or am I going out to the chicken house, or am I going out into the garden, or did somebody bring something by? There's so many considerations to being human. Some of us human very well, and some of us do not human very well. Some of us are deeply here in these human bodies, and some of us are only like tentatively here. Like we're here, but we're not here, right? And for some of us, that is the healthiest that they can be. Some are so sensitive that they're always sort of half in and half out of their bodies. At that point, it comes a play of whether or not the person is struggling. Are they suffering? Are they miserable? Misery does a lot to change your perspective. Not allowing misery does a lot to change your perspective. I've had met time and time again that the change of perspective being the most challenging thing to have to deal with. Coming into human design and into Gen Keys and into emotional bridges, each one allowing me to understand another layer deeper about myself and about other people. Other people intrigue me because there's so many different flavors, right? And I know very deeply in my body that I cannot be like most of them. My body is very sensitive. My mind is very different. I've been aware of my whole life, how unique I am, but not knowing how to plug in and have it serve some value, have it be purpose-filled, and how to just be good with it. Like I just wanted to be able to be happy and not constantly in sort of this panic place and wondering where things were going to move to next. So when I met human design, it's mechanics. This is why, or this is how your body could be processing things in this way. This is where your strengths could lie. Sitting back with that and going, meeting it at the point of as an experiment, not as in this is like a tarot reading and someone's telling you how it is, but they're actually saying, okay, astrologically speaking. And so when we talk about astrologically, we're talking fourth dimension. Breaking down fourth dimension very simply, it's just like 3-dimension, but we're essentially adding a time component. And so now we have the ability to track something through time and space, utilizing a much larger model than just this little Earth inside this gigantic galaxy. We actually get to kind of pinpoint our relativeness to things. So we get to see ourselves literally from a much bigger perspective. Right? We're not that, and that's not this, but that, just like you looking at me, can look down at me and give me a different perspective of myself. And that's kind of what human design and Gen Keys that are both based in astrological birth time, birthplace, and birth location. Location is longitude and latitude. Time is time, location in space. And date of birth gives you another piece of that time element. So you got two aspects of it. So when I'm doing work with people, I'm always asking them first and foremost, what are those 3 things? If they're comfortable giving that to me, then it's like, wonderful. I'm only using it to put this information into a charting system and pull up a chart. And I'm looking at that chart and I'm using my understandings of that process to potentially give them some insights into where they are that can help them to feel into for themselves what the truth is for them. I'm not here to tell anyone what their truth is. That ain't on me. I couldn't do that. That would be very arrogant of me to say that. What I can say is that I can offer a different perspective. I can offer a perspective that's not only mine, because I have my own, I have a relationship with spirit. I have a relationship with beings that I cannot see that speak to me inside my head. Most people would go, okay, she's a strange one. Yep, well, it's true. And a lot of us do. Human design mechanically could explain it as my having a particular channel. I have a channel that runs from the Ajna, which is the processing center, right down to my voice. And it gives me that insight ability, that access to the deep listening that shows me something behind the scenes. There's also another element of a freak to genius side of things. So sometimes I'm absolutely talking someone's language and sometimes I'm a hit and a miss. So I don't call myself a teacher. I don't even call myself, I don't call myself much. I call myself a dancer. I dance this dance because I find it so valuable and I find it so heart nourishing. And I see it lifting people up and bringing them into powerful positions within their lives that they are claiming for themselves. And that's super potent, super yummy to me. So I'm going to take a quick sip of my tea and I'm going to poke through and see if there's any questions. If y'all have had any questions so far, I'd love to hear what you think or queries that come up, and we'll go from there. Hi, Terry. Psychic Sojourns. Psychic Sojourn is Brandon Thomas, also known as Eagle Eyes. And he's my number one over there in the corner. He's let me know if there's any questions that pop up that I really need to pay attention to, like, hey, your face is sideways, or something like that. How's everything looking for over there?
That's good. And I'd say this is probably a good time to close it if we want to.
Okay. All right, cool.
Remember to have people subscribe.
All right, wonderful. Sweet. Well, I think we're going to call this a go. And if you like what I'm doing and you want to continue to keep following this, then go ahead and like this video, hit the subscribe button, and click the little bell that's next to it. That will give you a notification. I'll be doing this every week. I'm going to be doing a combination of live questions and answers through here, through YouTube Live. And I'll also be doing weekly contributions over on Patreon that Brandon's helping me get set up with. And we'll let you know when those are coming up soon. Okay. I got time to answer a quick question.
Sure.
Okay. So yeah, hit those little bells, hit that little bell next to the subscribe button. If you would like to know when I'm doing my next YouTube Live, because some of the greatest interactive portions of this is you asking me a question and me sitting here and giving you an answer. That gives me something to respond to, gives me a purpose for being here. And it gives you the option to see something from a different perspective, even if it's, from the crazy mountain woman up in the hill. So Terry asked, she says, I'm running around doing everyone's chart. Who will let me? How do I use this information to work well with them? Yes. I brought myself a little note sheet in case something like this came up. Reading the maps of the mechanics. This is a little something that I had done that gives me an idea of how to work with people. So she seems to have a few projectors in her circles. Yep, very much so. Okay, so this is what this says, auric types. So this is going to be a very brief, very quick synopsis. Auric types are generators, projectors, manifesting generators, manifestors, and reflectors. They are a difference of energy types and of how they use their voice, and whether or not they're here to reflect or be their own deep being, their own solid reflection. Some of us are here to be mirrors, and some of us are here to be lights, kind of a difference, right? So the auric types tell me how that person walks through the world. So Terry, when you see a projector, you know that they're here to guide and direct, right? That they're how you're going to work well with them because you're a manifesting generator to a projector. Those are conversations where you kind of want a meeting of the minds. You're both here to organize something. A manifesting generator is more of like a specialist. It's more of it's going to get a thing started and it's going to have kind of its own specialty. And a projector is generally going to be able to guide and direct and help to set up the system, though they're not going to be the constant maintainer of it. Right? They're going to give that direction. So manifesting generators and projectors can have a really great relationship when it comes to manifesting generator goes, okay, there's this one thing that I really want to do and I want to do this long term. That's my sort of generator aspect. It's not just my going out and starting things. The projector can help the manifesting generator set up how to go about doing that. That has longevity to it because they're more about the sustainability aspect of it, especially when they're working within their design and they're not trying to be an energy type. Their profile shows me how they are pulled, shows me what direction that they are inclined to be here in. Their authority, that's the place where they need to fully put their weight. Authorities, if you've got an emotional authority, wonderful. If you've got an emotional authority and you're a non-emotional authority, you need to be aware that your ability to relate to them is going to be based on their wave, because you're going to feel and amplify it, which means for you, Terry, the reverse is true. You are an emotionally defined person. So when you are around other people and they are emotionally undefined, they are going to naturally amplify and pick up your mood. They're going to be reflections of you. Where they are empty and you are full, if they're not living in their not self, they're not trying to be something they're not, they're going to be giving you a reflection of yourself. Centers. Knowing where someone is defined versus not defined for you in relation to them. If you're empty-headed and the other person involved has the head and the ajna defined, then you have a dynamic where somebody has a consistent accountability, has consistent access to that sort of energy. And so if you don't, and you need to be able to sort out some ideas, go to them and ask them for structure. Go to them and say, would you be willing to listen to me explain a thing and help me break it down into the components of what it needs to be? And they might be able to give that to you. Yeah, I don't want to go in too much more because we're getting into a lot of details that, unless you were already working with this particular system, you might be feeling a little lost in. Terry's question was based around human design and how to work with somebody else's chart. We had 6 weeks of class that we just finished up with, and that was InnerCartography 1, which was a deep exploration into human design and how to use it to make your own personal treasure map. Like, where's my yummy goodies inside myself? Where are my trip hazards? If I don't have a lot of things that are defined, what does that look like for me? And how do I get to feel like a full person? So like all these different aspects. Where's my boundaries? Where's a good, healthy place for my boundaries to be? What do I need to make sure I take into consideration before I make decisions? All those sorts of things. So we had just finished up with wrapping up that sort of a class, and she was asking about how do I work with understanding other people's charts and seeing how that interaction works in relationship to mine. And that's a whole deep topic, Terry, and I love it. And I think that's something I will put in the queue. And when I'm not in a place of having people ask questions, then I will continue going over something like that on a much deeper level. So thank you for that question, darling. All right. Well, I think I'm going to wrap this session up. Remember to hit like, subscribe, and notifications if you'd like to be able to know when this is happening again. Feel free to leave any comments you'd like, and I'll take a look through them. And if there's questions that you have after this, then I will move them forward into next week's queue. And you can follow me on Mountain Woman Medicine on Facebook. You can also go to MountainWomanMedicine.com, which is my website. And there's information in there under services about InnerCartography. And Eagle Eyes has helped me set up a Patreon, and we're going to be sailing. So I'll see you guys around the bend. Mwah. Lots of deep love from the mountain.